Ladies and gentlemen, what's going on? Welcome into Tuesday Track Talk podcast, special edition this evening as we jump into the NASCAR Netflix series. So, going to kind of take a dive into that. I am Kellen, your Jackman.
I'm your gas man, Cameron.
I'm your tire changer, Cam.
So we're just gonna jump in, do a little review now that we've all seen it and watched it more than once, probably. Jump in it and just kind of review the Netflix series, initial thoughts. Where do we go next? And then what are some different things that we feel could be beneficial or go along with the fan interaction. So I guess I'll just open it up and kick it off to you guys. What were your initial thoughts, reactions to this little 5-episode series that NASCAR did with Netflix?
Literally I couldn't stop watching. Like as soon as I started that first episode, I'm like, I have to watch it all. I can't, like, I had to download it so I could watch it on the plane and for travel. And it's just I had to watch it, and I'm to the point where I'm rewatching it again.
Cam?
Yeah, I would say same boat. Once I started, I couldn't stop. And obviously, for us who are diehard NASCAR fans and diehard racing fans, like that's what we dream of, seeing, unprecedented access, for these NASCAR guys and getting to see things that even us as diehard fans don't get to see on a week-to-week basis. So, overall, initial thoughts was it was fantastic. Well done. Just fantastic start to finish. And yeah, definitely hoping we can get, continue this, kind of along the F1 docuseries, how they kind of are rolling out new seasons and stuff like that. Hopefully this is the start of something for NASCAR where we can continue to just build on this and continue to do a series like this either every year or whatever. So hopefully this is a starting point, but overall it was just a fantastic job.
So I guess when we look at this and I've kind of as we set this up, I kind of have two buckets that I'm gonna look at in terms of the fan interaction with this series. So kind of starting on what I would consider your diehard like racing fan side of things. Um, what is something you'd like to see different? Maybe it'd be different drivers, different tracks, different time of the year. Is it good where it's at? Is there, as you watched it, did you have anything you said, man, I wish? What was your one I wish?
So for me, I think one of the hardest parts is not only as diehard fans, but also talking to some people that are not NASCAR fans that literally have dabbled into it. The one thing I wish they would have done is since they threw you in right in the mix at the regular season finale at Daytona, I wish they pieced it together throughout the series, but I wish they would have started with just a 5-minute or 10-minute explanation on how the series and playoffs work. Here's the point where we are in the season. 16 drivers make the playoffs. Here you accumulate points. I wish they would have just started the series with like,
How did we get to this point?
how did we get to this point? And then they throughout the series, when they were dropping in, Bubba Wallace, he's, 2 below the cut line and, whatever they would have had to do. Cause I felt like throughout the series, then like Dale Jr. would pop in and he would explain, we're going to Bristol and we're going to eliminate another 3 drivers. I just wish they would have spent like the first 10 minutes of how did we get to this point and where are we going and just covered, hey, so that when they show the point standings and like who's eliminated, you don't have to throw Dale Jr. in there again for another 3-minute debrief or preview on why, these 3 guys are getting cut. So I guess that would be the one feedback, just because a few people that I've heard from that aren't NASCAR fans and don't watch, they're like, I didn't realize that there's a playoff system in NASCAR, and I didn't realize there's a point system. And the couple things they said was like, I'm still trying to figure out, how the whole system works. So I don't know what your guys' thoughts were, but I guess my initial thought would be, hey, let's just spend 10 minutes at the beginning explaining where we are, the regular season cutoff, and then spend 5 minutes basically showing here's the playoff bracket, and this is how it's going to go.
I wish they would have featured non-playoff drivers. Get it from guys that are outside of the championship but are still racing every week. Because I think you have a completely different set of circumstances that you can look at. Does it have to be multiple drivers? No, it could be one or two. Two of them that kind of popped to mind. Alex Bowman and Corey LaJoy. I think you could get a different perspective as far as what racing week to week is like, and especially being out of the playoffs. Or even guys that get eliminated throughout the playoffs. Stick with them and show their story later in the playoff run too, even being out of it. I mean, that was kind of one thing that jumped to mind right away, especially from Joey Logano's standpoint. It was, he got eliminated in the first round, being the first reigning champion, eliminated in the first round. And that just his story quit there. You had Kevin Harvick's retirement tour and him going through the rest of the races. So I think you missed a storyline there a little bit. So if I had to throw my 2 cents worth, I think that's what I would throw in. It's get one or two drivers that are in the playoffs or are eliminated early in the playoff run.
So I guess kind of going from that, and you've kind of alluded to it already. Uh, what would be a driver or two you would like to see featured in said episode, said miniseries, or are you good with the cast we had, or do you want to see someone else?
I don't think we had any of the RFK cards, given as I'm rewatching, I'm on the fourth episode or got to watch the fourth episode, but I don't think we had any of the RFK cards in there. We didn't have
No,
Truex in there.
no,
We didn't have Harvick. I don't think we had Bush. We
no.
didn't have McDowell. And we didn't have Stenhouse.
Mm-mm.
So call it half the field. Playoff
Yeah,
field you didn't have.
yeah,
Which, given I know it's on the production side of things, it's probably hard to do that.
yeah.
But I think you missed out on some opportunities, and especially when they talked about it later in the episode when they finally introduced Christopher Bell. They were told, yeah, when we were first doing this project, we were given a list of drivers that we feel like we're going to make it deep in the playoff run and guys that we could cover throughout this entire series. And Bell's like, well, I wasn't on that list, was I?
Nope.
I had Truex I think we all had Truex going deep in the playoffs. He wasn't featured at all.
Yep.
So
I
given it's probably the driver saying yes or no too, but I think you missed out on some stuff there too.
right.
I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna rebuttal that and just say I actually enjoyed the way it was put together in the storylines of, hey, we're sticking with the guys that the stakes are the highest for. This is the NFC championship of NASCAR, and we're not interviewing the Green Bay Packers on NFC championship weekend when they're not playing. So I guess I enjoyed one, the drivers that they picked and they followed with. I really enjoy the drivers, and two, I really did enjoy the way they set it up, because you were following along with guys that the stakes were the highest for every single week. And yeah, I think it was
So I
well
guess,
done. I don't personally like, I don't think I would have thought it would have been a lot better had they included Harvick in it, even though he was on his retirement tour. Like, I don't think that would have added much to the series.
Sure.
Fair.
Especially, and I think especially since you mentioned earlier, you didn't have that summation of the entire regular season up to
Correct.
that point as well.
Yep. But no, I mean, I think the pool of drivers they picked, I really did enjoy them. Because you got kind of all different backgrounds and from different manufacturers. You got Denny, who's obviously the villain, who you got to have him in the series. But
Talk
then
about a
you
guy that took advantage of being on the in the spotlight.
Yeah. No kidding.
yeah, almost became a fan of his after watching. Um,
Almost.
I mean, I definitely can tolerate him a lot more now.
Oh, good for you.
Um, but I mean, so you have him, the villain, who, whatever. But then you go the other end of the spectrum. You got the William Byron and the Christopher Bell, who they don't, I mean, they don't say boo.
They're clean cut guys.
They're clean cut. They go about them business. They go about their business. They do what's asked of them, and then after that, you don't hear of them. And then you get in the middle ground. You got Blaney, who gets his name in the mix for whatever, and you get Bubba, who gets some storylines and headlines. So I don't know. I thought it was a good mix of drivers. Um,
So I'm gonna
Chastain, you throw him in there too, he was made him a name for himself last year for right or wrong reasons, but
so I'm gonna counter this with kind of two avenues that I was thinking about this as I was watching. So one is gonna be, and I'm gonna kind of go off of both of you. I'm gonna say Van Grohl off of your point with the Harvick thing. Um, I can see the upside to that because then my first thing that went through my mind, like, as we think about it as a sport, right? We're always looking to what's next to be able to grow this thing.
Mm-hmm.
NASCAR's most popular driver in there.
Chase
Stick
Elliott.
Kevin Harvick. Yeah, right. Chase Elliott. Stick Kevin Harvick in there.
Yep.
Because you maybe have somebody that was a Harvick guy through and through, and then when he retired, they said, "Nah, I'm good." Like, you could do that. So when I was thinking about that, and we'll kind of touch on that a little bit later too when we talk about um fans that are or people that watch that aren't diehard NASCAR fans, but the audiences with those polls, I would agree. Just because you might get somebody like that was just a Harvick fan until he retired, and now they're just like, eh. And again, Chase Elliott with the most popular driver, I felt like that was another one that they opened up and could open up another avenue.
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of the day, rightly or wrongly, they don't make docu-series or movies or anything on the dude that finishes eighth in the playoffs,
Yep.
unfortunately. So
Yep.
at the end of the day, you got to cover your storylines, right? You knew Blaney was going to be there because he's the champ. You knew Denny was going to be there because everyone wants to know, Denny, you're going to win a championship, right? Like, so that's kind of how I thought about that when I was sitting there. I'm like, man, there's a couple avenues, but at the end of the day, they also have to. You got to be with the guys in the fight as well. So that's
I
kind of how
would
it's.
I
Go
would
ahead.
say I would say I guess different in a different scenario or circumstance, I could agree with it, but like I just don't see the value out of following a driver in there. A Chase Elliott, had he been in the docu-series, like I guess when I think of these, like something that's going to draw you in and like keep you, whatever, it's something that is like you're waiting for the tipping point of the plot. It's constantly building up to something. And I just don't see the value of adding, somebody that's not in it.
Well, so
Because like with the playoff guys, it's like you've got 3 races, you can build up, build up, build up. Somebody gets axed off, and then next week you go back down, and then you can just build up the same, whatever. Like it builds storylines up and
Yep.
up. And if you're not in the playoff hunt, it's like, all right, well, like as a diehard fan, I'd be like, okay, if this is gonna be, we're gonna cover, these drivers in the playoffs, it'd be like, great. Let's take a look at Chase Elliott's weekend this year, this in the playoffs. Yeah, he's hoping for a win. I don't know.
I think you could have a better argument for Harvick than you could for Elliott because Harvick was in the playoffs. Even if in that first episode you had a 5-7 minute spiel about Harvick, he's in the playoffs, it's his last year. Do that quick synopsis of here's his career and what he's done. Gets eliminated from the playoffs, is out of the series. But then at that Phoenix race, you do another quick 5 minute spiel with him and his family at the race and all the guys thanking him and all that. And you get that little sentimental, goodbye deal with him and then pick up from there. So even if in the entire series he got 10 minutes, I think that could have been something you could at least capitalize on a little bit. Did it have to be a focal point? No, but he could have gotten 10 minutes.
No, and I think that could have been, you definitely could have through that. I agree with that. Like you could have said, when you started off, and he did make the playoffs. So, the cut race, it could have been the storyline is, hey, he's on his last, retirement tour, and you could have played it out as, can he make a run at a championship in his final year?
Yeah, do or die.
Yep.
Yep.
And you could have followed him along for those first 3 races, and then I think it would have been a neat idea to, pull it back in the last episode, showing him and his family, and I think you could have definitely given him pay his dues
Yep. And,
for because
and
he's
given
been honest.
he could have said no. I'm sure everybody was asked, and he probably said no, but I'm
Now,
also not on the production team. So
true. So I guess so. We've been talking about all the things that we want to change and we want to do all this, but let's kind of flip the script a little bit. Let's hit on a few of the shining moments of this whole deal. Number one, the the cast that they had outside of the drivers, still the best of the best in racing.
Booty
When you look at
Barker.
correct, like when
Booty
you look at
Barker.
yeah, when you look at the cast that they brought on to support the racers, the drivers themselves, money. Dale Jr., you bring him in. People know who Dale Jr. is.
I think Marty Smith was a very good addition on the journalist side of things with his
Yes.
ESPN side. That was
Yep.
a very good call on
Yep.
Netflix's part.
So that was, we're just kind of, I was just gonna say we're kind of rattling on the things that we want to change, but at the end of the day, um, very, very well done in support with the supporting staff as well in terms of that. So I guess when we look at it, do we like the 5 series? Do we want to see longer? Do we want to see
I want to see
what
more
what
episodes.
okay.
I think the episode lengths are perfect. Little 40, 45, 50 minute, 45 minute, 50-minute episodes, more episodes. I think you can get more out of it then. Because actually, so I think everybody compares this to the Formula One Drive to Survive. And rightfully so, I think. So I want to see how many episodes that they have. They
Should
have
be
10 episodes.
should be
Yeah, 10.
fantastic. It should be pretty cultivating to watch that because Verstappen is stomping everybody, so it should be fun to.
Which I haven't watched in a while, but I am intrigued on that. But that brings up a good point, though, was I think, and this is no bash on the Drive to Survive one, it could have changed over the years too since I last watched it, but I feel like they focused a lot on the drama between like the argument between two teams versus the pressure and the performance of the NASCAR playoffs.
That's fair.
Because
I
you also saw like all the preparation that goes into it. You saw Byron sitting at home watching SMT data from a race. The guy is doing the training and the recovery and the competition meetings. You saw all that, and then you got to see a little bit of their outside personalities in the race itself.
true.
So like one of your thought and one of the thoughts here might be steering off topic a little bit, but you had thoughts on the production itself. I thought it was very good. I think you got everything you could have wanted on a week to week basis. If you had the closed captioning on, they could have done better with that because there were some names that were wrong on there at some moments, but that's only something a diehard fan would pick out. But overall, I thought it was a great production.
I would say you couldn't ask for much more in a production because I think as diehard NASCAR fans, I think they went above and beyond the access they gave us.
Oh yeah.
And I think the drivers were a lot more open to it, especially like Hammond with the competition meetings at 2311.
Competition meetings, the Fords before Talladega, like
Yep.
the director of Ford Performance saying it doesn't matter, here's priority, but second priority is get a Ford in victory lane. Like, I guess as a diehard NASCAR fan, I did not expect some of the access they gave. Like, I thought it would have been storylines, whatever. I mean, shit, they're sitting in the motorhome with Denny Hamlin and Christopher Bell after they got literally eliminated in what would so to speak be their Super Bowl.
I was gonna say that Joey Logano getting knocked out, and he's watching the race from
In the hauler.
in the hauler at Bristol when he wrecked, and he goes, "Well, he wrecked. We still got a chance, but we need a lot more to happen."
Like the
So
Denny Hamlin, like that was literally like you literally just got beat of the playoffs, and they literally just that's the Green Bay Packers getting eliminated from the playoffs, and then a camera crew being inside the locker room with them.
yeah, we're
Like
following you home.
you
Yeah,
don't. I was actually shocked at the amount of access they gave, and kudos to the drivers for saying yes and allowing them to do that because
dude,
shit,
that
that's hard. I mean, that's hard not only to do that, but then like in some of the biggest moments, like for Denny, I mean, I would not have been. He's worked his entire life to try to win a championship, and then he gets eliminated. And you saw how gutted he was and how
Mhm.
disappointed, which is good for the series and the production to show how real it is. But like, ain't no way I would have wanted a camera crew in my motorhome after that.
couple things. So when you go off of that, funny, they interview him after I think it was qualifying at Talladega, and he walks into his motorhome, and his mom's sitting there.
Yes.
Daddy,
Yeah.
you were only running 50%. Why did you just put it all the way to the floor? He goes, Mom, I promise you I was. And she
Mom,
goes,
I'm in first
Look.
gear.
She rewinds it. She goes, Look, it says 50%. He goes, it also says I'm in first gear. I can tell you it was all the way to the floor.
Yep.
So, like that was funny. You're only running 50%. Come on. um, but I was gonna say, and then going from there, like the access, like you said, the access to those meetings, but man, man, that was wild.
The radioactive too.
Yep.
Doing the raw emotion and not censoring it out. Perfect.
Yep.
Absolutely perfect.
That was, I would say, underappreciated for my aspect. The no filter. I mean, we're accustomed to it because we listen to the scanner. We listen to when we're at the track,
Yep.
being able to listen to drivers, and we listen to NASCAR guys on the scanner. So we have an idea of what they say. But to put out a production, and I mean, it was as real as it can get. That's anybody that watches that and says Denny put that on for a production or no, like
No. The last thing they're thinking about is the Netflix crew listening in on what they're talking about.
that was as real as you get. That's who they are. And I actually appreciated that from the radioactive to when they're at their house with their family, when they're at the track, when they're in meetings. We're not cutting anything.
Yep.
This is what is said, and this is a day in the life of this person or a couple weeks or a couple months. Yeah, that was fantastic. So kudos for not cutting anything out.
Yep. One more thing that just kind of came to mind. you talked about like supporting cast, and he wasn't necessarily part of the cast, but you saw him multiple times. Michael Jordan
Yep.
and the involvement that he has. Like, I don't think everybody knows that he's got a race team, especially on the new fan side of things. So when you know, figure out that one, oh, hey, Michael Jordan's got a NASCAR team. And then two, he was at the races almost every weekend. Well,
Yeah.
as Bubba was being filmed. He was there almost every weekend.
It was a case of one, discovering he has, well, one, a vested interest in it, and
Yep.
two, it's not a transactional relationship for them, that he actually enjoys the sport of racing.
He has a personal interest in it.
He has a personal interest in it, not even from just the money standpoint, but the raw sport itself.
Yep.
So, and I was going to say this too. I'm going to say this before I forget, because we got sidetracked before, but we were talking about like this, the cast, the supporting cast outside of the drivers, and you mentioned Marty Smith and his quote, and I can't remember which episode
He's
it
got
was.
a lot of them, though.
He's got a lot of them, but the one was, the sound is intoxicating, the smell is intoxicating, and those two things, those two
Yep.
sentences just like rang, and I'm like, it is.
Yep.
Any you go to any racetrack, it is. It's just, you get out, motors are running, you can smell the race fuel. It's like, all right, we're here.
Also,
We're here.
also picked up your when you're back with the squirrels, you get your nuts busted. Well,
Yeah, yeah. When you're running back with the squirrel, get your nuts cracked. Yep, for sure. That's another good.
um,
Dude, he's so invested and animated in it that it just, scripted or not, that was on
yep,
point. Both of those quotes.
yep. Michael Jordan, going back on that again real quick. Like, it was the Bristol race when Bubba was doing a little bit of the strategy car with Booty Barker, where he stayed out at the end of stage one to get points and was gonna have to pit afterwards. Jordan was there, and again, shows you how invested he was. He was there talking with Booty. Hey, is this what you're planning on doing? Yep, you got it right down to the mark. So he's paying attention to that race. He's
Yeah.
looking at the strategy, and he's kind of sitting there and figuring it out for himself too.
Yeah, that was very interesting to hear him talk. Like he's asking 400 level questions for being a basketball guy. And obviously, when you have the money he's put into that team, and obviously being a founder, like, you don't want to just go into something and be like, yeah, I'll foot the bill and not know what's going on.
Yeah,
But for an outsider, even, as for a diehard, yeah, I would know Michael Jordan's involved, but I would say that this series definitely goes to show really how involved he is, because he's
yep.
asking 400 level questions on strategy and points and how this is going to affect for the win. And
Or
the little time that he had in there where they clipped him and Booty talking, and it was,
yep.
hey, are we
Or at
staying out for stage points? And then we're going to come in and, then this will get us into the next stage. Yeah, it was fantastic.
or at the Roval when Bubba did eventually get knocked out, he got spun going into the chicane from kind of referring to Daytona, getting hit by the guy that got hit from behind. Um there was Michael Jordan talking about, you were in a damn good position up until so and so hit you in the rear going in that chicane there. Like, he's there, like, talking about those moments too.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
not to get totally sidetracked, but if they continue to do this, if you don't listen to Door Bumper Clear, you love racing, go give it a listen. But they had Bubba on last week after Daytona, and he said now that Jordan sold his share in, his basketball team and the Hornets.
Oh,
Bubba
he's
said
fully invested.
yeah, Bubba said he's at the shop a lot more. He's in more meetings. Like, he said now Michael's really getting involved. So if they do another series, or another
Season.
another season, huge opportunity right there. I think to incorporate, I don't want to say, because then you're looking at repeating. Well, they covered Reddick, they covered Bubba, they covered Denny. If they, do another season and it's like, well, now we're going to incorporate Michael Jordan. Well, you're going to get the same three drivers: Reddick, Hamlin, Bubba. I don't know, but
But I think you get another point of view.
True.
You get another point of view. You get that because there weren't really other than Hamlin, there weren't any really owner perspectives. Like none of the owners really
No.
hopped on.
No, very driver driven.
Yep. Which I mean, rightfully so. Don't get me wrong.
They're the ones that are running the cars anyways, but
Yep. But I feel like Jordan, he'd be a good cameo type of guy. I think Justin Marks would be great for that as well. I think he's one of the more innovative car owners out there. I think adding Jeff Gordon in as the vice chairman of Hendrick, I think that brings in a very good perspective as being one of the dominant teams in NASCAR.
for sure.
So if you do expand it, you could add that in. You get so much more depth then.
Right. And that's even and you think about it, like those are iconic individuals in their own right
Yep.
in very different fashions that again, and we talk about what can we do to grow racing? That's put Jordan in there. Let Jordan talk a little bit.
Yeah.
You some of these older race fans that maybe don't follow as closely as they used to, stick Gordon in there. Let's tap the market of hey, the Gordon diehards that stepped away because Gordon retired. Let's give them a couple episodes. Let's
Yep.
let them have at it. Let's do something at Hendrick.
Just
Or
a
let's do
simple
something at
what's
2311.
Gordon up to nowadays?
Yep.
You know who else who's entertaining and a staple, and he's entertaining anytime he gets in front of a microphone? Tony Stewart.
Oh God.
Visit the Stewart Haas camp.
Yeah.
And
You're not wrong.
if you do that this season too, I mean, we've talked about it on our podcast episodes, how transparent he was with the media and what he told his team and what the expectations are of the team. I mean, if they do another season this year and you go to Stewart Haas, you're gonna get hopefully the Tony Stewart stands, the people that maybe have left racing and because Tony's retired or whatever. But you'd get again a Denny-like character who's well known and
Is not afraid to say what's on his mind.
is going to be 100% real and transparent. And
Yep.
you said it, he'll say whatever's on his mind. I mean, shit, he tells the media anytime you put a microphone in front of him what's on his mind. So, yeah, I think that, those couple guys right there would be bringing a whole new level of perspective, and I think a market between previous drivers, Tony, Jeff, and then getting into the owner side of it too. Michael, Tony,
Yeah. Yep.
just getting a little bit of more of a behind the scenes or a week to week or doesn't need to be a full episode, but just give us a little bit of what it looks like from their point of view.
One question I want to pose out. We're talking a little bit on the production side again. We talked about like the coverage of the drivers and whatnot, but ultimately when it comes down to it, yes, driver personalities is kind of what drives it, but the racing on the track has also got to be there in order to drive into the series. How do we think the racing covering the race itself was during this entire series?
It was decent. I thought it was decent. I felt it was a little bit short.
You got more of it at Phoenix, obviously.
Yeah, you got more at Phoenix than anywhere, which at the end of the day, that's you're racing for all the marbles. I think they could have integrated a little bit more of a 30-second race blip with the interviews of the drivers. Kind of as they went, like here's 30 seconds, so it's Bristol, there's 40 to go. Insert individuals running here. Then it kind of just forlays into the storyline of eliminations. When they show the cut line, it says, oh, he got eliminated. Well, then at least you have a little bit of a lead into each raw, especially the elimination races, each individual getting eliminated, where they just show a clip. They show the clip of Joey wrecking. Yeah, they did, but there was no bearing of it. It was just all of a sudden that clip was there.
Yep.
So I think integrating just 20-second race clips with those interviews, and you can even give a backstory as they're going through there as well with those race clips, and just be like, this is what's going on. Here's where we're at in the race. These are the implications down the road.
I think you could just show up straight, show battles throughout the
Yeah.
field.
2 playoff guys run with each other. Clip it in there. In.
I know you had like Bubba and Larson at Texas, but they were fighting or starting to fight kind of leading up to that moment. You may have missed a little bit on that too, where
Yep.
these guys are fighting for lead. This is getting really good. Bam, Larson spins and now he's out of it.
Yeah.
I think you definitely could have. I think they definitely could add more racing into it. More footage of racing.
Given we're working with 5
Again,
episodes here too and covering 10
Yeah,
races.
correct.
So
And my thought is too,
Small sample
is
size.
small sample size, and if we're gonna try to, draw new fans in, new fans aren't probably watching because the number one rebuttal we hear is they're just smashing the gas and going left.
perfect example, like you mentioned before, Max Verstappen in last year, who dominated every race.
So I think we should add a little bit more, like you said, some of those battles or on a elimination race, a Martinsville. I thought they did a pretty good job, with William Byron and what he was going through and Denny and all those guys. But I do think you could add more racing content. But again, I think it's a fine line because if we're trying to get new fans, a new fan is probably not watching because I don't know. I think they took the right avenue to try to draw new fans in. But now we need to get it more.
That could be, they could be plucking ideas from the Three Stones Pit Crew and as we're changing our format weekly at a time here sometimes to see if we can get more reviews or what draws the most impressions or whatever else. And all joking aside, that is another avenue that they could look at doing is formatting them a little bit differently. Look at formatting your episodes a little bit differently. What draws the views? What had the most view time? What had the most rewatches? Like,
But I think also now that, and given they haven't announced a second season yet, but if they do a second season, you're going to probably have a lot of the same guys in this that are being covered. You don't need to dive into the personalities for them guys because you covered it in season 1 type of thing.
yeah, because Tyler
If you-
Reddick's cat was on the counter.
Yep. If you introduce anybody, sure, you do a little synopsis, but okay, now we've got all of our guys introduced. Let's focus in on the production meetings, on the race, on the side by side battles. We can focus a little bit more on the racing operations.
Correct.
So I guess I don't know that we've gotten a definitive answer from anybody. So I'll pose this question. One, they haven't announced season 2, but if they did season 2, would you guys like more episodes? I think that's a pretty clear cut yes.
Yes.
Yep.
So my question is, who knows if what they're doing or producing right now, but do you think it would be beneficial to do, I don't know how you're going to do it, but a full season? Or do you like just, hey, maybe let's do 3 races before the playoffs and then follow kind of the same format, give a little bit more lead up to the playoffs?
That right there, that's your money line. The lead up into the playoffs. Because you get that anticipation and guys start worrying. We talk about it, on our podcast of you getting that time of the year where you're starting to figure out if you're going to make the playoffs or not. There's a lot of pressure that goes into that as well. So I think there's a lot of storylines. So I think if you'd hit those 5 races before the season championship or including the season championship, that adds to it. And that could be your 1 or 2 episodes, maybe even 3 episodes that lead into that.
Right. I agree. I think a full season is too much.
I agree.
A full
Too many
season,
races.
too many races, too much travel. There's way too much to track and go on and where these guys are traveling. But I think it needs to be a little bit more lead in than just, it's the playoffs. Here we are.
And Cam, you had even mentioned too, like having a synopsis of what happened throughout the entire season. 1 episode could literally just be on that.
Correct.
No kidding. Let's spend a 40-minute video going over highlights, race winners. I did like their playoff graphics, the points and the red and the
Yep.
green, who's in. Great
Yep.
graphics. Let's spend, 30 minutes on an episode recapping the regular season up until 5 races before the playoffs, which is where we're going to jump in. Let's go over
Yep.
race winners. Maybe if they're filming a little bit, here are a couple behind the scenes, whatever. But so my question is, we're all pretty much in agreement. What do you guys think ideal for a season with NASCAR, knowing it's going to be playoffs? How many episodes you guys think would be?
10. I think
Yeah.
10's plenty.
I'd say like 8 to 15. I don't have a set number. I'm going to say somewhere between 8 and 15.
I'm gonna say 10 around 45-minute episodes.
Fair enough. Yeah, I don't have a set number. I think it all depends on how much the storyline you want to cover. So I'm not gonna. I wouldn't say a specific episode number, but
I would,
I would more lead in. But I don't know if that turns into 1 episode or 3 episodes or 2. I don't know.
I'm going to say 12. And I'm going to say keep them at 45 minutes apiece. There's 10 playoff races. And so that'll give you enough time, if you go, that'll give you enough time to cover each race in depth, but not spend a full episode on it. And then also being able to incorporate some of the behind the scenes, the competition meetings, the drivers' lives, the, whatever. So I don't know. I don't know why I have 12 in my head, 10 to 12. Just being there's 10 playoff races, not an hour apiece for a playoff race, but it'll give you enough time to dive deeper into
Yep.
those. Because I did feel like in some of those episodes, they were maybe cutting ourselves a little bit short on the rate. We kind of talked about the racing content. Like some of those races, like Martinsville is, I mean, that's
Oh yeah.
that's the race to go to the Super Bowl in football. So it's like,
Yep.
if that's the race to go to the Super Bowl, like give me play by play of what happened in the game to go to the Super Bowl. How did
Yeah,
they get there?
and I think that could be a ploy on your episode changes, just being maybe Martinsville and the championship race each get an episode. Now,
Yeah.
you can do it that way, but it may affect what you do with the rest of your playoff
Otherwise,
race.
otherwise I would say, Martinsville and your championship race are the last episode. Make it an hour and a half.
True, yeah, like grand finale kind of deal.
Yep.
Yeah. So I think, and we were talking about this. So like we're looking at these things, and we kind of just jumped right into the next kind of topic, anyways, as we were kind of looking at this. But so just kind of thinking about where do we go from here in terms of that. So like when we talk about drawing new fans in, um, somebody that doesn't watch NASCAR, I'm going to pose this question. Somebody that doesn't watch NASCAR but watched the Netflix series and asks you, what race should I go watch?
Well, so before we get to the race portion, I'm glad you brought this up because I was searching for this tweet. Jeff Gluck put this tweet out after Daytona.
Okay.
So this is Jeff Gluck has his own podcast with Jordan Bianchi called The Teardown. Just it's a post race podcast recapping the race. So he had a comment on there, and I'll pretty much read the entire thing because it's all good stuff. Says this was the first race, and this is after they watched the Netflix series. This is the first race I watched after becoming invested following the Netflix show, and overall it was an enjoyable time. This was a great article talking about the podcast, and cleared up some confusion at the ending. So thanks for that. So the fan was able to get some clarification from the reporters, start building that basis. The race was definitely good enough to keep me watching, so now we'll have to see how long that lasts. It's going to have to be some high quality racing for me to be able to put up with how little I relate with the culture surrounding the sport, so let's hope they keep it up. So
Okay.
basically, the series got them hooked. First race, talking about Daytona, set the precedent. Now it's that season long grind.
So
and trying to adapt to the culture.
Correct. So you get that question. So going from that, you're interacting with somebody that doesn't really watch NASCAR. They ask you, what is one race this year that I have to watch? Where are you sending them? One
I
or
mean,
two.
there's two that pop to mind:
Okay.
Daytona 500
Yep.
and the Bristol Night Race.
Okay.
Maybe I'll throw a third one. Throw in Kansas. I think
Okay.
Kansas is probably one of the better half-mile races. So those three races.
Cam?
So if I'm talking to somebody who just watched the NASCAR, the Netflix series, just finished the completion.
They're asking you, what race should I go to?
What race should I watch? I'm gonna watch one race this year. Which one am I watching?
So, I mean, it's hard to say one, but I guess if I'm gonna say one, I guess you'd have to say the Daytona 500. Most sports wait the end of the year for their biggest event. I mean, yes, NASCAR, the championship race in Phoenix is a big event, but the Daytona 500 means more to drivers.
It's
And-
comparable to the Indy 500 of IndyCar.
Correct. And that's the first event of the year. It
Probably the only NASCAR event of the year that they're sending drivers home that do not qualify for it.
Correct. But it's also that race that I don't care how I finish in this race. There's only one thing that matters, and when it's winning this race.
Correct.
The season starts after Daytona.
Correct. So I was gonna say I would say like my three or four that I would have to say is obviously the Daytona 500. That's a big one. The second one, I'm gonna have to say you're gonna watch the championship race. Watch
Yeah.
the Super Bowl of racing. I mean, or comparable to it. Watch our championship race, and then probably in the middle somewhere a Bristol night race, a Texas. I wouldn't. I feel like a Texas would put on a good
Yep.
product. That'd be another one. So those would probably be like my three or four. So
I would say
well,
I don't have a race in mind, but something it's no knock on Sunday afternoon racing. It's fantastic, but racing under the lights is different. You know, like they
yeah,
always call, like the Friday night
Oh
lights and
yeah.
like high school football. It's like they always say, like, oh, there's nothing like high school football on Friday nights. There's racing under the lights is different. And I would say, I don't know what it would be, but get them something, a Daytona 500 under the lights, Bass Pro Shops cutoff race at Bristol under the lights, Texas under the lights, a Coke 600. I mean, I don't know that I would send them to the Coke 600 being the longest race of the year,
Well,
but I mean,
but I
something
would
under the lights because the cars, the experience, like it
Yep.
just feels bigger. It feels more important. It feels, I don't know, under the lights. I feel like it's just a different atmosphere.
You phrased the question too of what race should I watch. I would say just go to a race you can go to. Just
true.
go to a race.
This is
Because
true.
it's going to be a completely different experience, and that could be that that hook, line, and sinker. That could be the one that, all right, there it is. That's the bug.
Very true. Yeah, very very true.
So I would say that do that way. Go to a race that is nearby to you, and that's how you're going to enjoy it the best. Do
True.
do everything that goes with it. Do getting into the infield grass and seeing the cars line up. Take your pictures. Get the scanner rental. Do everything that you can so you can get that full experience.
This is very true.
I think that's where you're going to really make it up at. But that could be something too, and that's where the whole LA Coliseum experiment came into play too. Not necessarily an experiment, but that's where that came into play. We're drawing people in that don't necessarily have that access to it with the possibility of bringing new fans.
Very true. So as we kind of dig into, like, you see more of the charismatic side of these guys, especially Denny. with just how animated he is. Did this series make you more of a fan or less of a fan of particular drivers?
I definitely uh I have a lot more, I don't know if I want to call it respect or more of a fan of. I know you're not big on this, but Hamlin, honestly, he carried the show, I think.
True, you carried the
But you,
show.
you
You're not
saw
wrong.
you saw a different aspect of him. I think Byron too, because I saw the determination that he's got.
Yeah, Cam.
So if there's two, I think those are two guys that I got really more invested into. And honestly, I didn't have a guy that I really hated, less lost interest in, if I'm going to be
So
completely
if
honest.
I had to say stock up, no change, or stock down, I shouldn't say there's no driver that I would say was a stock down. Like there's no driver that I thought that they threw in there that I was like, hey, you don't belong here, or it was a shitty story. I don't think there was, I thought the drivers they all had in there fit well, deserved to be in there. So I don't think there's anybody that was bad. Um, but if I would say there was no change in the way I look at them, Reddick, Bubba, Chastain, those three guys, it was like, yeah, it's fun following along with you guys. Bubba, his storyline, not expected to be in the playoffs, gets in the playoffs, starts rattling off points, just following along him on the cut line. He was good. But I will say stock up, and I would say whether it's more respect, more likable, you just admire the craft and their work ethic. Denny, Byron, and Christopher Bell.
I think Christopher Bell 100%. That opening line. So you guys didn't expect me to make it far. That
Yep,
gave you that underdog right there.
yep.
I think the respect comes in from Denny, just knowing the amount of wins he has, and not just that, but like, yeah, he can be an arrogant SOB and whatever. But I think that really did admire the work ethic that goes into it and how bad he truly wants to win the championship.
Yep.
So it's like, am I gonna like him more? I don't know. But I can tell you one thing, I sure as hell respect him a lot more.
When he lost, I believe it was Darlington, because he won the first two stages and then had that mistake on pit road. And you're sitting in the camper with him after that race, and you visibly saw how disappointed he was. It shows it that showed what it means to those guys for even one race. It showed.
Yep.
Logano sitting in his hauler after the Bristol night race. Am I in or am I out? That's in the dedication he had. That I think that is what drawing some showed those guys as well.
I will say I just continue to like William Byron. Just you learn it. It's kind of a in a nice way, kind of a nerd.
Yeah,
Um, very analytical. Obviously,
Yep.
he very unique story, being able to come up and work his way through the ranks on computer racing but just the work ethic he has and the determination and him saying, I just am continuing to get more comfortable and confident. Like I didn't really get confident in myself and what I knew till later in the year. So it's like, Cal, we had built a lot of Legos. He's a Lego guy.
Well, we built a lot
So
of we built a
um
lot of race cars with Legos, that's for sure.
yeah. So um yeah, I don't know. And all those guys and the Christopher Bell, just the belief he has in himself. I know, like he literally calls him out and says, "Yeah, everybody does believe, doesn't, you know, everybody counts me out, but I believe in
that's
myself.
fine.
Yeah,
I'll prove him
that's
wrong.
fine. I'll prove him wrong." So I don't know. Those three guys were fantastic. I
Yep.
really enjoyed those three.
Yeah, for me, uh, I respect Hamlin. I just still am not a fan of him. He's not my guy. It's painstaking to put him in my fantasy lineup and go, I got to root for 11 today. Damn it. We're just gonna choose to ignore that. But no, I mean, obviously the dude is outside of the championship conversation. I mean, he'll be a Hall of Famer without a doubt.
Oh, absolutely.
So I respect it. I respect him. I'm not a fan of him.
Yep.
Christopher Bell, Tyler Reddick was kind of one that I was like stock up. Just the little bits that they did on him, I enjoyed those.
It
But yeah,
kind of showed that Tyler Reddick's kind of the goofball.
yeah,
A little bit of
not
the
the
goofball.
yeah, he's not the knucklehead, but like he kind of is, you know.
Especially when they were at Talladega and he opened the door and here's the family dressed up as the Mario characters.
Yeah, and they're down at the playground and
Like
they're
that
all
was just perfect.
yeah. But yeah, so that was I would say they're again definitely nobody down, but there's
Not
a level of respect.
not a driver, but somebody that I definitely became a fan of, and I think we could all agree with this, Booty Barker. We mentioned it earlier,
Yeah.
but getting that personality, literally, and then the point's like the producer of the interview was like, he talked about not getting too high on the highs and not too low on the lows. And that question stops there, and Barty's like, I guess I lied to your ass.
Yep.
Just the perfect line.
Yep. Yeah, for sure.
Just perfect.
I guess so. Just kind of we kind of posed it before, but if they say next year we're gonna follow 5 drivers in season 2, what 5 drivers are you guys putting in there?
Well, I think 3 guys out of the gate. Denny Hamlin, because he was obviously the star of the show last time. I think you
Yep.
can get the same quality.
Yep.
I think William Byron, because I honestly and I've said this before and I'll say it again. I think he's going to be a championship favorite for 24. And I think you have to throw Ryan Blaney there because he's your defending champ and you get that perspective.
Okay.
So
That's
there's 3 out of the gate.
Yep. I'm going to be a little biased here. I'll give you a fourth one. And we haven't mentioned him yet, which is kind of crazy, but Young Money's got to stay.
Yes.
He's
And
got
I
to stay
hope
with the dirt draw and the crossover of the dirt world.
and I hope that, again, if they do this next year that they venture into that realm. They follow him to that track and
follow him to his high limiting he owns.
yep.
Go on. Go with him on a Tuesday night. Hey, it's NASCAR Kyle Larson racing on the dirt.
Yep.
Give him 10 minutes, a vested 10 minutes in an episode or 20 minutes of what he does on the side with the high limit stuff.
And don't tell me high limits will not be accepting of that. Given, yes, he is a owner of it, but I bet you anywhere that he goes, what it is with high limits, or he's running late models with the World Outlaws, or whatever the case may be, Lucas Dirt. If he's somewhere, absolutely.
Oh,
the track is going to be all for it.
Yep.
Tracks are going to do that, whatever they can, just to get their name in there once, and they're going to be on board with it.
Amen. Who's the fifth one?
I'm all for all 4 of those. I think all 4 of those got to stay. Denny just gives you the villain perspective, the guy that's been so close and he's gunning for it. The guy that the little train that could, he's gunning for it his whole life, keeps coming up short. I think you get William Byron, the guy that wins a lot, a favorite. You get the defending champ perspective. Fantastic. I think Kyle Larson's got to stay just with as much racing as he does across different series. I mean, shit. If they're filming, we're gonna film him at the Indy 500.
Yep.
Hop on the plane with him, and we're going to a NASCAR race like
3 hours later.
The double. Yep.
This past weekend on Saturday night, he's racing a sprint car. Did he race a late model too?
Yep.
Last night? Shit. He's racing a sprint car and a late model on a Saturday night after he qualified his cup car on Saturday morning. Saturday night, he's on the dirt with a sprint car and a late model. Sunday morning, he's flying back to the NASCAR track. I don't know. I think he's got to stay.
I I got a fifth one here. I got him sitting right here. Old Kyle Busch.
Yep. I think we need a little more of him.
I think because of Brexton too. You get a
Yeah.
little bit of the now you got that next generation driver and kind of get
Yep.
that upbringing too.
Yeah.
So
Like you saw Hamlin's kid in there, kids in there. You saw Logano's kids, and you saw Logano's kid in the go kart, but not old enough to race. Where I think with Bush and Brexton, you can get that in there.
Correct. Yep.
So I'm gonna throw this out to you guys. What I think would be the final two in my mind that I would debate out.
Yep.
Final two that I have in my mind would be either Brad K, because that would be another driver owner perspective,
Yes.
Okay.
or my thought would be if we're gonna do it right, somebody who's runs well, has name in the mix, could go with last two raw, a Martin Truex Jr.
Yeah.
And I know Truex is a very private guy to start off with, but even if you get him, like I'm sure he goes fishing a ton and he's out in the woods when hunting season comes around. Like even if you get that little perspective in there, I think that adds a ton.
Correct. Even if he doesn't want to do anything at the track, if he says, "All right, I'm going fishing today," you can bring your silly little camera on the boat. They'd be like, "All right, perfect. We'll
Yep.
go."
Yep.
Yeah.
Wasn't real personable when I asked him for a picture at Chicago. Picture, autograph, yeah. And then I asked them, so, probably get annoying. They do have enough media shit. So I asked them, hey, you got a car? You think that you can win this tomorrow? And he goes, quote unquote, dude, I don't fucking know. So that's right after practice. I probably should have looked and see where he practiced before I fired away that question.
That's funny.
So I sign my shirt, get a picture, carry on. Forget I asked
Yep.
that
Yep.
question.
You brought in Brad Keselowski, and I'm a fan of him to start off with and the things that he's doing over at RFK. If we're getting like that driver and owner perspective, Jimmy Johnson.
Yeah. The old 7-timer.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think that'd be a
I
good
mean,
one to bring in
the
as
hard
well.
part is the hard part is you have so many guys that you could stick in there, but you're stuck balancing the array of guys versus the storyline because you can't do a storyline on every single one. Otherwise, you'd have a 300 episode race season series on Netflix, you know?
And if I'm Netflix, I think that's a good problem to have.
Correct. You're putting yourself in a bad, tough situation.
Literally, it comes down to how much can we capture and what just ends up getting cut.
Correct. But yeah, I mean, it's a great bad problem to have.
Yep.
I mean, it's awesome to have that, but it's also tough making decisions going, sorry, insert driver, you only had 9 minutes of video time. It doesn't fit.
Yep.
Sorry, you know. But so I guess what is our final, what do we have any final initial reactions or final thoughts as we kind of wrap up here?
New fan or diehard, watch it. I mean, even if you're not a fan of NASCAR, for anybody that are dirt fans listening to our stuff or even short track fans, you got to watch it just because I think you get a complete different perspective. And I think, again, you get that personality with the drivers that kind of brings them back to earth type of thing. Yeah, they get to race on Sundays and they're well-known names, but, they're not too far off from what we do anyways. Maybe except Hamlin flying in private planes and helicopters, but
Yeah. Yeah.
I would say initial reaction, I mentioned it in the intro, fantastic, must watch. Doesn't matter what series racing or discipline you enjoy. I think this is, again, must watch. I think it really brings out what goes into this, into our sport. Like, as far as even tech inspection for some of those cars and like the umbrella walk, like guys walking
Yep.
with their umbrellas, like, and how just down to the nitty gritty our sport is.
Which on that Steve Letarte was a good ad for that as well.
Yeah.
Probably
Um, it just is fantastic. And I think it just provides access to things that you can't even imagine. I mean, this is
It shows the dedication from everybody.
correct. And I mean, this is, I think, I keep using football, but I mean, this is, you are in the locker room with the football team. You are listening to what plays they're going to run. You are listening to the strategy they have.
You're
I mean,
getting the
you
you're getting the
get
story of the
everything.
coaches, the practice squad.
Yeah, you get everything. And I think if you're not a fan, I think this is a fantastic place to start to get a baseline and understand just how this works and what goes into it. And from there, cannonball in and just continue to watch, and hopefully
Yeah.
they build on this, because I think this is it just is fantastic for just showcasing our sport, some of the best that we have, and racing on and off the track, the best we got.
I think another point I want to try to make, and this is more of a PSA for our diehard dedicated fans, is be accepting and be kind of a tutor or a mentor to the new fans that are wanting to get into this. Answer the questions that they got. Take them to a race. It's we all want to see it do good, and the new fans is what's going to help it make it do good.
Yeah, point them in the right direction. Throw them a
Yep.
bone. Make it foolproof.
Yep.
Because that one person, they could tell another 10 people, and now that 10 turns into 200, and you just never know.
Yep.
You never really know. But no, I second all that. I mean, I mean, I've watched it 2.5 times now. I think I'm on episode 3, like the third time or something.
Sure.
I keep watching just because it's just done well.
Yep.
So,
I'm probably going to keep it permanently downloaded on my phone for whenever I want to at least watch it.
yeah, for sure. It's going to be certainly one of those trusty things when you go, there ain't nothing on TV. What am I going to watch? I'll flip it on
Yep.
for sure. So that's for the nights when everything gets rained out.
Yeah.
I was just gonna say,
Off season.
I think I'm gonna go back tonight and start it over again.
Yep. Just laying in bed.
Yep.
I finally got my own Netflix account too.
Attaboy.
Nice.
So getting
Moving up in the world.
time to stop poaching from other people.
Well, now to get yourself your own other racing streaming services.
So
Yep.
Slowly
Time
but
to-
surely.
yeah, time to stop poaching from other people. And so I just ponied up and did it, and did the $6 a month with ads. So in a 50-minute episode, it's 3 ads, and I'm like, do I know what? I could care less. So
Yep.
um
I do want to kudos to Netflix too. I don't think you could have had about any other better production crew to take on this task.
Yep. Absolutely.
And NASCAR was open to it. Steve Phelps, the president, said this was huge. We're hoping to build off of it. So I think you got a great rapport between the higher ups of NASCAR as well. So
yeah. So
I think it was a fantastic job all around. I think it did its job and drawing people in and giving a good mix, and hopefully this is a stepping stone. We continue to just build on it. And yeah, it was awesome.
yep, absolutely.
So as we kind of wrap this up for those, kind of the same as Netflix. If you're catching and listening to us just chit chat here on the Netflix series on NASCAR. We have our weekly Tuesday Track Talk podcast that comes out every week. So, hop over there, check those out, give those a listen. We cover anything from dirt to asphalt to NASCAR to wing sprints to late models to short track circle racing is what it comes down to. Inside those episodes, you'll get a couple of race recaps, major storylines. You'll get a few short race previews, but then we'll also put out race preview videos individually throughout the week. So if you're looking for something to listen to or watch or learn more of this racing realm, huge opportunity here at the YouTube channel as well. So you guys check that out. Subscribe, you can hit that bell, and then you can see when all the videos come out as well. So kind of a little parallel for that, for those that might be tuning in for the first time. So for those that are coming back and watching on the regular, we appreciate it. We always appreciate the likes and the listens and the views. Spotify is going as well, so make sure you listening on the go on Spotify as we finish up. So thanks for taking a listen, and then be on the lookout for the next Tuesday Track Talk podcast episode. We'll catch you guys next time.